So good afternoon and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Florencia Ramirez, who is an activist and author of Eat Less Water. Welcome, Florencia.
Great to be here, back. Great to be back.
It's great to have you back too. I loved your book. I got it. I was excited about it. I even bought it as a gift for that Hanukkah, because I think we interviewed you and had you on the show right before the holidays. So maybe last year?
Yeah,
I think so. Or the year before. I'm so confused with these COVID years. So, but for those that are not familiar with you or weren't part of this community, when we first had you on, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about who you are.
Well, I think I'd begin with what does eat less water mean? So eat less water really is referring to the water footprint of food. So you and I eat anywhere between 500 to 1,300 gallons of what's considered virtual water every day. So for example, if you have a glass of wine at the end of the day, which I like to do, it's 32 gallons of water that it took to make that glass of wine. Or if you have a slice of bread, it's 11 gallons of water. And of course, the higher you go up on the food chain, the more water it takes. So for a pound of beef, it's about 1,800 gallons, and butter is even more than that. So it's thinking about food through the water that it uses, because that is what uses the most water on this planet. 70% of all of our fresh water goes to grow food. But yet the conversation every time we have a drought, which now we're currently suffering, we're in a mega drought, that's like new terminology for me, at least, that, the conversation never seems to move into the kitchen and by extension, the farms, but rather just occupies the same space, which is the shower. Take shorter showers, turn off the tap, don't water your lawns as often, those types of things, which of course are important, but that's just a drop in the bucket of the water that's consumed in our daily round.
It's true. And what I find really interesting is that, we're all shamed a lot, right? Don't water your lawn, don't take a bath. How many gallons go into a bath that you take?
About 70.
70. Okay.
70 gallons, yeah.
70 gallons. And if you go out with a friend for drinks, and I don't drink a lot, but that's because I'm a lightweight and I get tired and then I want to go home. But the average person might drink a couple glasses of wine at dinner, right? And you just said that one glass of wine takes, did you say 10 gallons, right?
No, 32 gallons.
32 gallons for one glass of wine. So you're saying that they're actually over dinner having 2-3 glasses of wine, which is 90 gallons, which is one bath. So, if you do that, I'm equating it, and maybe I'm making it personal because I like my baths. But if I take one bath a week and you go out for drinks 3 nights a week, you're actually consuming more water in those evenings than I am in a week with my one bath or one.
Right.
I'm just making.
No, absolutely. It's a good way. It's an interesting way to look at it too. For a dozen eggs is 276 gallons. So in my book, I start every chapter with whatever the popular food is that I'm going to take you on this journey with me. And it starts with the water footprint. So that's kind of the introduction, is water footprint. But then it's not to say, oh, you can't have that wine, or you can't have those eggs, or that bar of chocolate, or those foods that we love, but rather it's to understand how are the agricultural methods that are saving water is really what it is. So when I go to, like tonight, I'm going to go listen to some jazz music in downtown Ventura, and I will ask for a glass of biodynamic wine. That's what So biodynamic wine is a way of making, they're still using 32 gallons of water to make that wine, but it's because the farmer is really intentional of how he or she builds their soil, so that their soil is healthy and rich with microbiology, so that when it does rain, it acts like a sponge and it holds water up to 1,000 times more than the farm or vineyard next to that farm that's spraying with pesticides or chemicals or using petroleum-based fertilizers, which makes that, it's still using 32 gallons of water to make that wine, but it's using the water that's coming from the groundwater or from reservoirs. You know, that's what it's drawing from versus the biodynamic farmer that's using natural rain and moisture to water his or her crops, because that soil can hold the water. So really so the introduction is, okay, let's look at the water footprint of food. But then the next layer is understanding what I call well, not just me, but water experts have talk about, is the color of water. Where is that water coming from? Is it green water, which is what a biodynamic farmer would use, or organic farmer would use, a dry farmer would use, versus the blue water, which is the water that we're using way too fast, which is what we use to, to shower or to water our lawns and to grow most of our food on this planet. So anytime you see that irrigation go off, they're drawing from, say, groundwater. So here where I live in Oxnard, they're drawing from all the groundwater for those strawberries that likely you have in your cup or your refrigerator that are coming from where I live. But we're exporting that water that's not being replenished because we're not getting that much rain. So it took millions of years for that water to accumulate, and we're drawing it down in less than 100 years. So that's like the next layer that I take you on this journey, which was to understand, can I, as one eater, make a difference on water systems around the world? And the answer is absolutely yes. You and I can make a huge difference, but we need to be connected to the story our food tells. And it does. So when you go to your kitchen and you open your pantry, you open your refrigerator, all of those items are connected to a stream, a river, a groundwater supply, land, somewhere on this planet. And what is that? What did it contribute to? Did it contribute to something good, or did it contribute to drawing down water too fast and polluting the stream next to it? And, so that's where I'm talking about. And, I really do think that the reward for me in terms of absolutely, it grows well-being on this planet, but it also grows well-being in my own kitchen. There's something energetic about knowing where your food comes from, like going to the farmer's market and talking to those farmers and building those relationships, or, it makes a huge difference on how I feel at the end of the day when I'm tired and I have to go to the kitchen to cook another meal, right? Where it can feel overwhelming, like, oh my God, this is adulting, right? Is cooking meals over and over again and never stops. But instead of thinking in terms of that narrative, feeling like, I'm cooking with purpose, right? I get to go in my kitchen. I get to be part of the solution. I get to grow well-being for this planet and for myself and my family. And then it just changes. It shifts the energy from something that can feel heavy and at the end of the day to something feeling light and fun.
So Florencia, is that what inspired your next book?
Yes, absolutely. So the first book is Eat Less Water. It took me 7 years to write it from start to finish, because it took a lot of journeying and understanding and learning from farmers around the country. But when I would, talk to different groups of people throughout the country, when I would talk about this book, it was like, okay, I love it, but tell me, how do I buy those eggs? Like, where do I find those eggs that you're talking about that are the best for water? Or how do I, what is biodynamic and what is, all of these things. So it's taking the book and putting it into a structure that's very simple to digest.
Because I think that's so important. That's what you and I are about. We're about making this accessible. and giving them
Absolutely.
the information so they can make the informed choice,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what you're doing from the moment you got on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Giving them the information so that they can make the informed choice to choose what wine, to choose what eggs. So now you're making this possible through doing this in a video?
So the book will be called that I'm currently finishing. It's called How to Eat Less Water in 30 Days. And it takes you on a step by step by step, where it's like, the first part is if you did nothing more, if you didn't buy a single organic thing, if you at least worked on how to waste less food, that would make a huge impact, because every time you throw something away, you're throwing away water, right? You're throwing away soil, you're throwing away, all of the things that are attached to make that food. So the first part of the book I spend on, let's create systems of organization in your kitchen, in your cupboards, in your pantry, in your refrigerator, but not from a sense of, oh, because it's going to be Pinterest beautiful, but rather with the goal of how can I put systems in place where I waste less food. That's the goal. So I talk about that, and then about shopping, and then around the cooking and eating part of it. So that actually has become is the framework for a podcast I'm launching next month, or in the month of April, the Earth Day month, and it will be called How to Eat Less Water as well. And
what's so beautiful about this is that one of the greatest challenges we have is that so many people buy for recipes, and so many people buy all these things and they put it in their refrigerator and then they can't see it. So from what you're saying is like, you're going to show us how to put this in a way that we're going to be able to see it and use it.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what I'm getting. Am I right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's just,
that's my greatest challenge, is because I'm like, oh, I have to make this. And then I buy all these ingredients. And then you either have leftovers or you have this, and then you forget you have that, or you go to the store and you're like, I need to buy all this, and you don't know what you have.
absolutely. That's
and
it.
then you have waste.
And there's simple things that we can do. And you think and really when we do these things, you're a water activist. You're part of the solution. It doesn't have to be like these big, huge events that you plan and you organize to grow well-being on this planet. But it really is, it comes down to those small little actions that we make, that we take every day, that collectively it's power. That's how I like to end things I write, is like, there's power in the collective. So if I'm making these changes just little by little, and you are, and your neighbor and your friend that you tell this about, I mean, it adds up. It all adds up. So we can change the story of what's happening on this planet. I believe that so wholeheartedly.
And I think that it starts with small changes, and people, by us giving them the information, we empower them to make these changes. And as a collective, we can empower great change.
Yep.
So this is what I built this platform. This is what you're building your podcast for. And hopefully we have the power to create a movement that will create great change for the planet, for people, and create greater access to healthy food.
Right. Because, we are, when I wrote Eat Less Water, what became clear to me right away is, if it's not good for a river, it's not good for your body, because we are exact replicas of this planet we call home. It's not by accident that you and I are born 70% water, just like this planet is 70% water. And there's so many parallels as you start to do work around food and nature, that you see, like the microbiology in soil, when that's healthy. Oh, we also have that good bacteria in our bellies, that in our guts, that we also need to keep healthy too. And it depends on how we're eating and what we're eating, right? So it just over and over again, it gets repeated, how we are so connected to this planet. And so then again and again, as you start to really get deeper into understanding the stories your food tells, and eating with purpose, you're growing well-being in your own body, and just the way you feel on it, the energy, I wake up every morning and I'll put my arms up in the air and I'm like, I'm alive, and it's just like plugging in right away into just this universal greatness that we get to be part of. But that's been a process of just living a life with purpose. And it's all integrated, we're designed to do something good and beautiful in this world. Each of us is. And when you're on that path, whatever it is, you do have that sense of just enthusiasm, not every day, not every moment, but a lot.
Essential Ingredients is powered by Next Gen Chef. Next Gen Chef is a movement that supports food and beverage entrepreneurs around the world by fostering a sense of community and providing its members access to mentors and a wealth of resources and guidance. Next Gen Chef feeds members with the knowledge they need to build better for you food and beverage businesses so the world can have greater access to healthier food, comprehensive food education, and increased affordability. If you like what you hear on this podcast, continue the conversation or ask new questions on the Next Gen Chef app, available in the Apple Store and Google Play. Follow Next Gen Chef on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Next Gen Chef. Join Next Gen Chef and let's change the future of the food industry together.
I agree. And I'm curious. I don't know if you can imagine this or if it's too, obscure of a question or too lofty of a question rather, but I don't know if you've done the numbers as an activist but if you could imagine if we all did these small things and we all made these changes, what could you see for the future in terms of the impact we could make on the whole?
Well, we would
if you're looking forward in 3 years or in 5 years, what do you think the impact could be?
Well, Rodale Institute, which I
love Rodale. Yeah.
So they actually have a white paper available about what would happen if all farms would start building soil. So to move away from chemicals, to move away from petroleum-based fertilizers, and instead do things that I write about, like crop rotation, great intentional grazing practices, like all of these things, everything down to building soil, that we would have the capacity to draw down all greenhouse gases that are emissions from that year. That's incredible that our soil has that capacity to do it if we allowed it to come to just feed that microbiology for it to be alive, like how I feel in the morning. Like that's what we want everywhere. So that's pretty fast. That's like a fast thing to do if we were to do it, right? And so no, I can't say, all that farm over there, that because I live by a lot of conventional strawberry fields, especially here in Oxnard, and I see the spraying going on all the time. But if more of us are partnering to choose the non-pesticide, we have a huge voice as consumers when we merge that influence, and we could start changing things out so that the soil, as a result, will start getting built. And then we could start drawing down more greenhouse gases, and we could start, cleaning up our rivers, because most of the rivers here in the United States, and this is not even the world, but in the United States, don't even have enough life to hold to be a place for fish or sea life. I mean, that's ridiculous. But the thing is that we can change it. We can clean it. So I come from a place of let's turn our hope into action. Let's not in the place of, you could easily go into that dark space of, oh my God, all the things that we're facing. There's just no, if you start listening to the fires.
It's daunting, right?
Yeah, it's daunting. Yes. And it's good to be informed, because that's kind of like could help move you forward to do the work you're doing, but not to be stuck in that space, because then you do nothing in that space. I'm
So
speaking
right? Is there one really simple, I mean, I think there are lots of things because you mentioned a bunch in the beginning, but you speak to a lot of people, and I know that you probably, you know, there's some things are easier for some people than others, right? If you wanted to give one recommendation that you thought was easy, that would make the greatest impact, what would that be to our listeners and our viewers?
I would say waste less food. And I'm right now finishing up a template for meal planning, because I plan my meals every week and thinking about starting with what do I have in my refrigerator. And
so that's a good idea.
And then from there, building out what the week's plan is. You waste so much. We waste 30%, anywhere between 30 to 50% of our food. If that would be the easiest place, and that saves you money.
Right.
The average family of 4 throws away $1,800 worth of food every year. And for some of us that's higher, for some of us a little lower, but that's the average. So you could take that money and you could then use it to spend on the organic produce, or going and supporting your farmer's market. But I'm gonna, for those people who are on my newsletter, I'll let you know when that template, a free template, is available.
Let's be inclusive here. How would those viewers and listeners of the Essential Ingredients podcast get on your newsletter?
So you could go to eatlesswater.com, and on that first page you could scroll down and you could sign up for the newsletter. I also have a shop that I'm building out. It's been so much fun for me, which is just fun things like tea towels that are organic, and water drop shaped charcuterie boards, or but talking about why organic, why the linen apron, why the FSC certified wood, why should we be paying attention to those things? So it's moving from just the cupboards or rather from the pantry, and then into the other things in your kitchen, all with the premise of, let's just grow joy. Like, what makes you happy? I know that holding a beautiful handmade mug makes me happy in the morning.
I like pretty, and I like sometimes it's got to feel a certain way and have a certain taste, right?
Absolutely. It's that energy. It's the energy of how is something made, these vessels that we are the containers for the food that we serve to ourselves and to those people we love.
So Florencia, I know when is your new book coming out?
So the new book won't come out until next year, but if you're on my newsletter, you'll have.
Okay. And your new podcast is coming out.
That's coming out in April. So that will be launched the Earth Day week.
We'll announce that as well for you. So you'll keep us in the loop.
Yes.
And for the listeners and viewers that are paying attention and watching this, please remember, we will put her in the show notes. We'll put the information on how you can sign up for her newsletter in case you missed it. We wouldn't want you not to be able to get all her good information. Florencia, thank you so much for joining us. It was great. You had so many great nuggets, so many ways that I feel I can take away from this, go home and make a change and have an impact, a positive impact. And actually, it seems like it's pretty doable. I mean, we belong to a biodynamic winery, actually, Devero in Healdsburg. Do you know Devero?
I don't.
But for those of you interested in learning about a biodynamic winery, check out Devero. It's a great one. It's small. It's got pigs and all the different animals on it. But anyway.
But, I'm glad you're mentioning that too, because that we need to share out with each other because those farmers are really at the forefront of this movement. Every day they're working to build soil, to save water, to sequester carbon, and to build nutrition for us. And we get the reward of just tasty food and drink. Right.
And their stuff is beautiful, and it's a beautiful winery.
Yeah. So, and they cannot exist without our support. They can't exist without us. We have to partner with them.
We're so grateful you came back on to share us what's new and what's next in your world. And we're going to be following along and sharing your updates with our community. So I hope the community will, join your newsletter, listen to your podcast, and stay up to date with what you're doing, because you're doing such great work. So thanks so much. And she's participating in our giveaway, guys. So pay attention. Earth Day, we have a great giveaway coming up, and you'll want to follow us on Instagram to check it out and see what she's giving away. I think it's a book, a signed copy nonetheless.
A book and 3 organic tea towels. One that says change. So they're awesome. Really beautiful.
So thank you all for joining in today. Thank you, Florencia. And we'll see you here again next week on Essential Ingredients.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do in the world.
To find out more about this episode of Essential Ingredients and access show notes, check out Next Gen Chef and choose podcast in the menu bar. If you like this episode, head to iTunes or Next Gen Chef's YouTube channel to subscribe. Learn more about Next Gen Chef, the platform that powers this podcast, by checking out our website, or visit us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Next Gen Chef. You can also check out my Instagram at Justine_Reichman. If you have thoughts about this episode or future episode ideas, leave us a comment at Next Gen Chef's YouTube channel or drop an email at team@nextgenchef.com. Thanks for joining us.